On Tuesday, President Joe Biden issued a draconian executive order putting restrictions on asylum seekers. So now this is a ban at the U.S.-Mexico border concerning asylum seekers attempting to enter the United States. So what would happen here is this ban gets triggered when 2,500 people over the course of a week end up crossing the border. So we've already had that, about 4,300 this week. So effectively, the border's closed. Any migrants who cross the border end up facing a 5-year ban on re-entering the United States, as well as potential criminal prosecution. Once the shutdown is in effect, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas can reopen the border once the average crossings have fallen below 1,500 for 7 consecutive days. So what this is, again, it is a ban on asylum seekers. Now, this violates international law. Asylum seeking is legal. You would literally have to go into the country, turn yourself over to Border Patrol to be able to request asylum. But apparently, if it's too busy down there, if more than 2,500 people have already crossed the border to do that, then you will not be allowed to. And not only that, but you will face criminal penalty. So now the new actions also aim to restrict asylum by making changes to the president's Title VIII authority. These are the procedures that allow the government to be able to deport people, right? Migrants will face higher standards than what was previously used to determine the fear or the intention to seek asylum. There's that. Finally, the executive action invokes Section 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which allows the president to suspend the entry of foreigners who are deemed, quote, detrimental to the interests of the United States. That is a 1950s law. And by the way, that is the same policy used by Donald Trump in his Muslim ban. That ended up being, restricted by the courts, overturned by the courts. So look, this has a lot of similarities to Trump's immigration. Okay, there is an exception for unaccompanied children that Trump did not have in his plan to, ban asylum seekers. But still, unlike Title 42 under Trump, there are legal consequences for crossing the border at points between 2 ports of entry. And not only that, but it also fast tracks deportations to around 1 or 2 days. And so in some ways, it's even more draconian than what we had under Trump. In fact, one of the major differences between Trump and Biden's immigration policies is that there is some exceptions laid out. There is, for example, parole for migrants and other legal pathways that have been set up. However, those were set up at such a low level that there end up being significant backlogs to processing those legal methods. And still, you have more and more people wanting to cross the border to claim asylum. So I have to ask, why is President Biden doing so much of Donald Trump's immigration policy? Well, yeah, he hasn't done mass deportations, but he has done more deportations than Donald Trump. As of last year, Biden had surpassed the deportation numbers of Trump in his entire term. Now, that said, that's because more people did come to the border. So Biden had them removed and is now wanting to be able to deport even more people faster. Again, the question is why? And maybe he thinks he's going to get more right-wing votes by taking a hard line on immigration. Now, I've got some polls here that I want to read out, and this, according to one of them, is the latest NBC News survey that found that most U.S. voters ranked immigration and the border a close second to inflation and cost of living as the most important issues facing our country. So now, when you drill into basically what their political beliefs are, well, Republicans, unsurprisingly, find this as the most important issue. 42% see immigration and the border as a top issue. Only 4% of Democrats and 15% of independents believe that immigration is the top issue. But there was a Gallup poll from April finding that 48% of Republicans compared with 8% of Democrats mentioned immigration. Independents, however, were at 25%. So look, here's the thing, okay? Even though Democrats don't see immigration as the top issue, there are some polls that suggest that some of Trump's solutions to immigration are starting to become popular among Democrats. In fact, a recent poll suggested 42% of Democrats support mass deportation of undocumented immigrants. Why is that? I mean, there's a lot of different factors here. Economic factors, of course, and there's also the narrative that immigrants bring crime. Do they? No. And by the way, this is the same thing that liberals and Democrats have criticized Donald Trump for saying. You remember, he was out there saying, oh, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some I assume are great people. And they're like, oh, how could you say that, Donald Trump? Oh, my God, what a horrible person. And now, Joe Biden, I mean, look, a lot of Democrats are saying something similar now, okay? Or believing in that narrative, like, oh, there's crime here. And so let me get to the polling on that. When asked specifically about the impact of migrant influx on crime in the United States, a majority of Americans, 57%, said the large number of migrants leads to more crime. Now, Republicans and Republican leaders obviously support this the most. 85% of Republicans are saying this, 90% of conservative Republicans, 77% of moderate and liberal Republicans are saying, yes, immigrants, crime. 31% of Democrats, however, almost a third, are saying, yeah, more immigrants equals more crime. But there's no evidence of that. The research that has been done does not support the view that immigrants commit more crime or are incarcerated at higher rates than native-born Americans. Numerous studies have shown that undocumented immigration does not increase violent crime, neither does the existence of so-called sanctuary cities. And not only that, but they're bringing in drugs, they're doing drugs, they're driving under the influence. There's a study that was focused on drug crimes and driving under the influence and found that unauthorized immigrants were not associated with arrests for those offenses. So they were not getting arrested for those offenses because they weren't doing them. Okay. Now, another study found that undocumented immigrants were 33% less likely than to be incarcerated than people born in the United States. So not only do immigrants not increase the rate of crime, but overall in the country, crime is down. Crime's way down. A recent NBC News analysis shows crime overall has decreased in the country, especially in places that have taken migrants. For example, New York City. You had a bunch of border Republican red states sending their migrants over to places like New York City that have taken them, and what happened? The crime rate did not increase. In fact, it stayed the same, and it went down. Crime went down. That's because crime has been decreasing all over the country. The immigration, the amounts of migrants coming in have had no impact on the crime rate whatsoever. So what is going on here? Look, right-wing media, establishment media have pushed the crime wave narrative, and it's not true. They've also pushed the migrant crisis rhetoric, and here we have the result. We have Biden, who is apparently attempting to get conservative voters and voters who are Democrats that have fallen for this, rhetoric on crime and immigration to support him. And I think that's pandering to the right wing, which I don't believe is the right way to go. I don't believe that, you can pander to the right wing. You can get Republican votes. Oh, we're going to get the moderate Republicans. We're going to get the anti-Trump Republicans, right? Are you, though? One of the reasons that I don't buy that argument is because the right wing lies. They just shamelessly lie. And people believe it. For example, right after this draconian bill was announced, Trump's campaign press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, called it amnesty. Get a load of this statement. Quote, after importing more than 15 million illegal aliens into our country and releasing countless criminal migrants, who have brutally raped and murdered our citizens. This new order will facilitate the release of more illegals as quickly as possible with a smartphone app. What? None of that is true. None of that is true. That is a complete and utter lie about what this legislation is. What this executive order is. It's not even legislation. But see, here's the thing. You can't outflank Trump from the right on immigration. He's just going to keep lying, and his fans will continue to believe it. Look, here's the thing. If Joe Biden wants to do something positive on immigration, great. There's a lot better ways than this, all right? For example, and these are popular ways too. These are things that the American people will actually support. 60%, a majority of Americans say that increasing the number of immigration judges and staff in order to make decisions on asylum more quickly would make the border situation better. That's supported by 75% of Democrats. So there you go. And in fact, 56% say that creating more opportunities for people to legally immigrate to the United States would also make the situation better. That has the support of 69% of Democrats. There are ways that you can do this. Now, both of those happen to, I believe, likely require congressional action, comprehensive immigration reform. I mean, good luck getting Republicans on board for that because they don't want to. But they would help, making these promises would help with shoring up Joe Biden's base on the left instead of doing things like this, which I think is him actively trying to court Trump's base. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.